You're watching Dave McElhatton, Dana King, and Weather Everywhere with Brian Sussman. Eyewitness News is everywhere.
I'm Roz Plater, live on the peninsula in Palo Alto. A woman has filed suit claiming she got hepatitis C after having her blood drawn at this lab. We'll have the latest details coming up.
Our top story right now, the first claim of contamination in the so-called dirty needle case.
A South Bay woman has filed a lawsuit saying she was infected with hepatitis C by a lab technician accused of reusing needles to draw blood. Medical expert Roz Plater is live in Palo Alto with the story.
Well, Mac, Palo Alto police tell Channel 5 that they have confirmed at least one other patient from here has tested positive for hepatitis C, and they're investigating 2 other claims. Now, all this comes in the wake of a flurry of lawsuits. The lawsuit identifies the woman only as Jane Doe number 7659. We are told she is a 39-year-old Santa Clara County soccer mom with 3 children who had previously tested negative for hepatitis C until the fall of 1997. Attorney Richard Alexander, who represents the woman, says she had her blood drawn 3 times at the Palo Alto Smith Klein Beecham Clinic, where state investigators say a lab worker has admitted reusing needles. Alexander says until the woman got a letter 2 weeks ago, she was puzzled as to how she might have contracted the virus.
She's been baffled for this nearly 2-year period, trying to figure out why she should have to suffer this impact, why it should impact her relationship with her husband, why she should be afraid to hold and kiss her children.
Nearly 4,000 patients now have been advised they need to be tested for HIV and hepatitis. State investigators say that number could grow as they track the clinics where the lab technician worked. Smith Klein Beecham did not return our calls today, but experts say proving a hepatitis infection linked to the clinic worker could be difficult. Dr. Joanne Imperial specializes in liver diseases. She says 4% of the population tests positive for hepatitis C, and it is often difficult to know the source.
It's very difficult to actually point to a source, especially because most of the patients that have been infected were infected decades ago.
This case has prompted another look at phlebotomists. Natalie Mello-Rotz, who runs a Walnut Creek phlebotomy training program, is helping draft emergency legislation that would set up new state regulations and require certification for the nearly 10,000 phlebotomists in the state of California. Now, San Francisco Assemblywoman Carol Migden will introduce that emergency legislation into the Assembly on Tuesday afternoon. As it stands right now, your hairdresser has to be licensed, but not the person who draws your blood. I'm Roz Plater reporting live from the peninsula.
Now, Eyewitness News is everywhere.
A Bay Area woman has filed a lawsuit saying she got hepatitis C after having her blood drawn by a technician accused of reusing needles. Medical expert Roz Plater has that story from the South Bay.
In San Jose, lawyers have filed a suit claiming a woman got hepatitis C after having her blood drawn by a lab worker state investigators say has admitted reusing disposable needles. Nearly 4,000 patients from the Smith Klein Beecham lab and 2 other labs have been advised they need to be tested for HIV and hepatitis. But doctors say proving the source of a hepatitis infection can be tough.
It's very difficult to actually point to a source, especially because most of the patients that have been infected were infected decades ago.
This is the 3rd lawsuit filed in the case. I'm Roz Plater in the South Bay.
The technician reused her needles. Could it be what's responsible for the spread of a highly contagious disease?
ABC 7 News, the Bay Area's #1 news, with Dan Ashley, Terrell and Joe, Spencer Christian, and Martin Wyatt.
Good evening, I'm Terrell and Joe.
And I'm Dan Ashley. New development tonight in that reused needles case that has scared so many patients on the peninsula. For the first time, a patient has come forward claiming that she got a potentially life-threatening disease as a result. And now she's suing. ABC 7's Carolyn Tyler has our report.
This is the lawsuit that's been filed by a 39-year-old mother of 3. Known only as Jane Doe, she says she contracted hepatitis C in 1997.
It's impacted the relationship with her husband. She's been afraid to hold her children and to kiss them.
His client blames Elaine Giorgi. The lab technician has admitted reusing disposable needles when she drew blood from patients at the Smith Klein lab in Palo Alto. Health officials believe it'll be hard to prove a direct link But Jane Doe's lawyer is confident.
Jane Doe will be having her doctors testify, as well as experts in infectious disease, and we'll be calling Elaine Georgie to explain how this happened as well.
Though Jane Doe's lawsuit is the first of its kind connected to the case, here at the Palo Alto Police Department, they are investigating 2 or 3 other cases with similar complaints, including one detectives consider very credible. There could be criminal charges.
There's really nothing under the law that covers, something like this with blood. The best thing that we're looking at possibly be assault with a deadly weapon, considering they're using the needle.
Both Georgie and the SmithKline lab itself are also being investigated by the State Department of Health, and there are 2 class action lawsuits as well. The company has declined comment, but in a written statement, a spokesman says, "We continue to cooperate with the state in its investigation, and we continue to put the patient's interests first." So far, nearly 4,000 patients have been warned they could be at risk for hepatitis and HIV. In the South Bay, Carolyn Tyler, ABC 7 News.
ABC 7 News, the Bay Area's #1 news, with Cheryl Jennings, Dan Noyes, and Spencer Christian.
Two people are now claiming they've contracted a potentially deadly virus from that Palo Alto blood lab, where a worker has admitted reusing needles. Officials say both clients of the SmithKline Beecham lab have tested positive for the hepatitis C virus, which can cause severe liver damage. And one of them, a mother of 3, has filed a lawsuit against the lab where she had blood drawn 2 years ago.
She has been very ill and fatigued and feeling impacted, but there's been no specific diagnosis as of yet.
Now, SmithKline is not commenting on the suit, but medical experts say it is possible the 2 people could have contracted the virus from another source.
From the South Bay's news leader, News Channel 11 at 5 continues.
Problems are mounting for SmithKline Beecham and a worker who reused needles to draw blood. Another lawsuit has been filed against SmithKline and technician Elaine Georgie. The woman who filed the suit says she got hepatitis C when she visited the Palo Alto lab in 1997.
It was only after she gave birth in March of 1997 that she was first seen by the phlebotomist at SmithKline and then diagnosed and received a notice in October of 97 that she in fact did have hepatitis.
The woman claims SmithKline and Georgie caused her personal injury. The same law firm has filed another class action lawsuit asking courts to medically monitor SmithKline's labs.
Every year, about 1 million healthcare workers are accidentally stuck with dirty needles. But there's a growing debate about how far employers and the government should go to protect workers against such a fate. In tonight's special report, Sharon Katsuda takes a look at life-saving technology.
You talk to any nurse or doctor, they've all had needle sticks.
It happens in the blink of an eye.
I'm going to be starting an IV for you.
A jerk of the hand, a moment of chaos, a life hangs in the balance. A needle used to treat a patient is now stuck inside the healthcare worker.
I think it was just total shock.
3 years ago, nurse Ellen Dayton was stuck with the needle she had just pulled out of a patient. That patient had hepatitis C and AIDS. Ellen waited, hoping she hadn't been infected. 1 month later, she was diagnosed with hepatitis C. Within a year, she was HIV positive.
I just felt like I was kicked in the stomach.
Ellen Dayton's story is not uncommon. Each year, nearly 1 million healthcare workers are stuck with needles and sharp objects. Diseases like hepatitis and AIDS can easily be spread from patient to healthcare worker.
It used to be when you were a healthcare worker, being stuck the first time with a needle was a badge of honor. But now people realize it's potentially a death sentence.
You never know when a needle stick is going to happen.
Gina Puglisi chairs the National Committee on Safer Needle Devices. She's also a safety consultant for hospitals. Puglisi says the incidence of developing HIV from a needle stick is low. The risk of contracting potentially deadly hepatitis B or C is much greater.
I think we have a responsibility to protect our workers that are caring for us.
So why can't safer needles be developed? You may be surprised to know they have. They're designed with a shield to prevent needles from coming into contact with healthcare workers. So why are most workers still at risk? One reason, money.
A standard needle used to draw blood would cost a hospital about 6 to 8 cents each. A needle for drawing blood with a safety engineered feature cost a hospital about 22 to 25 cents each.
While they may cost more, safety experts say in the long run, using these devices pays off.
One needle stick that causes HIV or AIDS in a nurse or in a healthcare worker or in a physician could cost a hospital in workers' compensation and treatment for the life of that healthcare worker.
But hospital representatives say money isn't the reason.
If we change to a new type of a needle or a new type of device, everybody who works in that hospital, all those shifts have to be trained.
Feel comfortable to you?
And training takes time, something today's healthcare workers have very little of. But times are changing. California is the first state in the nation to require safer needles. In fact, here at the Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, they use 2 types of the safety devices. 20 other states are considering laws like California's.
Okay, I'm going to be giving you an injection.
And while the debate goes on, the healthcare workers continue to take their chances.
It makes me so angry that it all comes down to money. You know, it's not valuing human life, but it comes down to money.
Sharon Katsuda, News Channel 11.
As for the cost of safer needles, manufacturers say prices may go down as demand goes up.
Now, from the South Bay's news leader, News Channel 11 at 11.
Well, tonight, police are confirming a second case of hepatitis C stemming from the Palo Alto lab worker who reused dirty needles. This one comes from an unidentified man who had blood drawn at the lab. Earlier today, a woman who also claims to have been infected filed a lawsuit against SmithKline Beecham and Elaine Georgie, the lab tech. The suit was filed by a woman known only as Jane Doe. It's the first suit to charge Georgie with causing a patient to contract a disease. Plaintiff claims she also contracted hepatitis C, the potentially fatal disease that attacks the liver.
It's impacted the relationship with her husband. She's been afraid to hold her children and to kiss them. She's had to be careful about where she places her toothbrush.
The same firm has also filed a class action suit that accuses SmithKline of improperly notifying and counseling patients. Police investigators hope to wrap up their case in the next few weeks. The DA will then decide if criminal charges will be filed against Georgie.